Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everybody and welcome to AGON by AOC MX-5 Cup powered by VRRC. My name is Jack Oliphant and joined as ever alongside me is the delicious Dave Marshall. Dave, how the devil are you?
Yeah, definitely not delicious, but yeah, and actually not also as regularly anymore. You're doing the TCT Championships on a Thursday with the fantastic Andy McEwen, so I'm race director for that. So the pressure's back in the comms box and see if I remember how to do it.
It may not be as regular, Dave, but I do miss you, however good Andy may be. We are here for the Mazda MX-5 Cup. Now, if you're thinking there's a little bit of deja vu in terms of the title, well, you wouldn't be too wrong. This is a running repeat of the Donington National. So you may have remembered last week there was a few issues with the server around Donington. A couple of drivers having to be forced back to the pits and not being able to finish the race, etc. Well, we've decided that it wasn't fair and technical issues intervened, so we're going to be rerunning it. So hopefully tonight it will all run smoothly. So this is the second attempt at Donington, and then next week we're now going to Brands Hatch, Vallelunga, Red Bull Ring, and Virginia Racecourse. So a couple of those dates are now changed, but you get the general idea. Driver class gold and silver still, so the standings are as they were at the end of Laguna Seca. Nothing we did last week counted. Apologies if you spent 2 hours of your time watching it and now you're back at Donington, but that's how it rolls. Fixed setup in the MX-5s as well, of course, and that's basically all there is to it, Dave.
Yeah, it is indeed. Some fantastic prizes on offer as well in this championship, with gold and silver receiving exactly the same prizes. So first place in gold gets a set of OBP pedals, but so does silver. Second place prize, an AGON 34-inch curved gaming display, and then third place prize, thanks to Motus One, 2 VIP tickets to the British GT Championship. And like I said, quite fancy them myself, if I'm honest, Jack.
Yeah, they're some of the best prizes that are around in sim racing, to be honest. I don't know why everybody's not jumping on the VRRC as quickly as possible to try and take advantage, especially as both sets of prizes go to gold and silver. A lot like the TCT that's on a Thursday that you mentioned. We will keep mentioning that throughout the evening because it is awesome. Anyway, back to the MX-5 Cup, and of course, as I mentioned, last week didn't count, so we're looking at the results from Laguna Seca round 1. Jack McIntyre took home the most amount of points, with Eric Axel's son coming in second and Carl Felvis in third. And if you didn't catch it, Laguna Seca was amazing. You should definitely go and check it out. Drive the round was Carl Felvis, and in silver category, all the cars look silver. That is a coincidence. But Mick Sutton took home the most amount of points, and Brad Smith was second. Nathan Blank in third. So plenty of drivers to be looking out for, but they're the protagonists, I'd say, of this evening. A couple more people have picked up a little bit more pace as well, having an extra week to practice here at Donington Park. But if we're talking championship, well, it's in front of you now. Jack McIntyre with 31 points ahead of Eric Axelson with 22. A fair old margin already between the top two, but I'm sure that will be whittled down if Eric Axelson has anything to say about it. Carl Felvis hoping that he doesn't get put back to the pits 2 races in a row here at Donington this time round. He's in third, only 2 points behind Eric, and he did a fantastic defensive drive at Laguna Seca 2 weeks ago. Jack Smith in the Smart 5 car will be hoping to turn his fortunes back in the winning ways. He's in 4th place, as he did last week, actually. Nicky Taylor in 5th, and Simon Reed in 6th. Then you've got the silver drivers, Mick Sutton, Brad Smith, both drawn on points after Laguna Seca, both on 27, so they're tying for the championship lead. Nathan Blank on 23. Trust me, he'll be there probably by the end of this evening. Paul Laramie in 4th, Simon Thorpe in 5th, John Jones in 6th. Simon Thorpe and John Jones actually tied on points with 11. And Kenny Press bringing up the rear in 7th place. Right. With all that said and done, Dave, before I jump back to you live, I'm going to jump to you in a hot lap video of the MX-5 around Donington.
So, going across the line here for round 2 of VRRC's MX-5 Cup. Turn 1, trying to get as far left on the track as possible, down to 3rd gear, and look at how early we can commit to full throttle there, trying to get the best run possible down through trailer curves towards the old hairpin, trying to hold a super tight line here, all the way left on track, and we're going to follow that white line all the way left to open up old hairpin as much as we can. 4th gear, a little bit of brake, and then just roll the speed in, trying to find absolutely every bit of grip from these small tyres possible. Now, a really difficult turn in and braking point here. See the car getting very loose on turning, but you need that to carry that momentum through the corner. Up towards the right hand here, super blind over the crest, keeping the car nice and straight in 4th gear, an early throttle application, and this is going to give us our best overtaking opportunity. Getting a decent run out of there in the slipstream and trying to get the move done before we get into the braking zone for the last chicane here. Down to 3rd gear after the crest, incredibly late on the brakes. You see, modulate the throttle to try and not get the back end of the car to bounce too much. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday night at 7:30 on VRRC's YouTube, and also make sure you give it a like and subscribe.
And just before we go to live pictures, we're going to thank Dave Marshall for that wonderful hot lap. But first, Dave, actually, before we go to the live pictures, I thought maybe we'd wedge this in. I'm talking the TCT, because we're going to be mentioning it a lot this evening. But I thought, you know what, let's mention it right now. Let's pretty much get it out the way as we've got the viewers in just before qualifying. There it is, up on your screens. It was amazing at Alton Park, wasn't it? There were a fair few thrills and spills, but Silverstone International in the TCT car is going to be sensational, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can give you a quick insight looking at the live timings of practice that's been going on through the week. Alton Park, a lot of undulation, difficult track, slightly more technical, lots of chicanes and fast and flowy sections. it's one of them tracks where it really sort of helps a technical driver. We go to Silverstone National, a lot more open, a lot less to the track, and I tell you what, the times couldn't be closer. I think there's 3 drivers at the top at the moment within 100th of a second, or 0.015 a second or something. So very, very fast times indeed. And then it's same for Silver Class, ridiculously close. So yeah, if we thought Alton Park was good, going to go to Silverstone, and things are going to be even closer still.
Yeah, we won't bring up the championship or anything like the championship graphics or anything like that, but we can tell you that the silver category especially is so close, and by the sounds of it, the racing in both classes is going to be awesome. So join me and Andy McEwen on Thursday, 7:30, pretty much the same timings as we have here at the MX-5 Cup, for more TCT action. And without further ado, we can go to live shots. Here we go of qualifying. Qualifying started a touch late. We're talking about 30 seconds to a minute. So that's why we sort of blabbered on with a little bit of an intro into the TCT. But at the moment, Paul Laramie would quite like the checker flag to be thrown, Dave.
He would indeed. Top at the moment in qualifying, but yeah, what we're going to expect to see here is I did see in practice just before I went into qualifying, Eric Axelsen actually going top of the timing sheet, literally on about 1 or 2 laps before it ended, with a 1:16.7 flat, which is an absolutely ridiculous lap time. Let's see as drivers come across. You can see there's a good bunch of drivers, and there straight away Eric Axelsen, a 1:17 flat, but Jack Smith, just like he did last week, goes across the line on a 1:16.9, so a very quick lap time there from Jack Smith. We did see this last week, didn't we, Jack? He just seems to have found his rhythm with this car, really hooking it up. And I tell you what, if he keeps going the way he's going, that championship deficit that Jack Max started to open up, to me, is looking not big enough.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit scary, to be honest, because everybody obviously would probably enjoy the extra week's practice, but then they realised that the likes of Jack Smith has also had an extra week's practice. So they may have found another couple of attempts, but no doubt he will have felt a couple of attempts as well. But there must be an ultimate pace that these guys must be hitting, Dave. They can't break the barrier too much. I mean, 16.6 would be astronomically quick at any point during this evening, wouldn't it? 16.7 is potentially what we're half expecting for a pole time. And at the end of the day, those drivers who were close to that last week, they can't be breaking the barrier too much extra, can they? It's just a few other people probably getting a bit closer, you imagine. Yeah,
sorry to go a bit off topic here. I just watched that lap there. Simon Reed was tucked right under Jack Smith's wing the whole way around that lap. I think Simon Reed's played this really well, and he's actually pulled himself round. There we go, 17.6, but it was Brad Smith actually behind on a 17.2. So Brad Smith getting the double slipstream there. Fantastic lap, and a little bit of a shortboard out of turn 1 as well. Fantastic, Brad Smith.
He would have definitely known that the cameras were on him after that lap, wouldn't he? He thought, you know what, one for the crowd, gave a cheeky wink as well to the webcam if he's live streaming. Mick Sutton goes up to 6th position. No, Mick's actually picked up some pace, Dave. It's quite nice to see him at the sharper end of the field, because in anything basically front-wheel drive that we've seen over the past couple of months, Mick hasn't really been as close as he probably would like, and yet here in the MX-5, he seems to be thriving.
Yeah, so we know going back from the academy days, Mick's quite quick in the MX-5, and I tell you what, he actually had real glimpses of some absolutely stellar pace the last few times out in other competitions. So he's one of them drivers you can really turn it on, but just some nights in the race he just has a bit of unluckiness, or just misjudges a corner. As we see, that is, I believe, Nathan Blank losing the back end. You know what, Jack, how many times in real life have you nearly done the same thing? Come out at chicane, trying to give it absolutely everything, and you just get that outside wheel on the grass, as Simon Reed goes and does a 17.3. Brilliant lap as well.
Unfortunately, it's not nearly in my case. I pretty much wrote off a Ginetta G55 by doing exactly the same thing. It's all good, it's all good. I can laugh about it now because of the bill was paid 3 years ago. Simon Reed just spinning around there, unfortunately coming out of T1. Mick Sutton goes 3rd! Get in there, Mick Sutton just about bigging him up, and the opposite of the commentators. Curse happens to him. He flies around the track and goes himself into 3rd place. Jack McIntyre, just before we saw that spin in front of him, actually was on a purple lap time, so we couldn't see Jack Mac
Eric Axelsen, though, currently on a purple Sector 1. So Eric Axelsen, to put it in the grand scheme of things, has just gone nearly 2/10 faster in the first sector than anyone else out there. So Axelsen, sorry, is on an absolute flyer here. Slightly slower middle sector than he's previously done. This is it, the chicane. So this is where, if you run your delta on the screen, this can be such a big distraction. But that to me looked reasonably clean there. Maybe a little bit cautious, but if he had that delta on the screen, he will not be wanting to push it. And there it is, 16.844, just enough to get ahead of Jack Smith. Fantastic lap there by Axelsen. Will Jack Smith manage to retaliate? Has he seen the time on the board, or will he not even look at it and go, right, I haven't done the lap time, I know what to do, let's go out there and put it P1?
Yeah, I think Eric actually sacrificed maybe a 10th through that final chicane. Just a little bit of corrective oversteer on that, hitting that first curve. I think just upset the car a little bit. He had to put a little bit more steer into the left, which sort of scrubbed the exit speed, because of course you really want to be going out of the corner quicker than you go into it, don't you? But still, that is an absolutely astronomical lap, and it's putting 300 of a second ahead of Jack Smith. And what I like about that as well, Dave, you mentioned about Jack Smith and Jack Mack and people like that, obviously seeing the time, but they won't have seen the time that he lost, which is quite interesting. So Eric will sort of know that there's another 10th in there, whereas the likes of Smith and McIntyre might think that that is the maximum Axelsen can do. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this dynamic sort of grows throughout the qualifying session. Obviously, with Mick Sutton sort of getting in the way at the moment, but we do expect Jack Mack to out-qualify Mick, and maybe once he's out there on fresh tyres. But Axelsen actually goes green, sector 2, but it's not going to be good enough because he throws too much at it in the final chicane. And I have to say, actually, that looks to be almost a very, very quick lap. Jack Smith, green, sector 1. We're focusing on him now. He's behind his Smart-Fi teammate of, I believe that's Simon Thorpe. And this could be special as we see him go through Coppice even. I always get them.
Coppice, yep.
Yeah, Coppice, there we go. Go through sector 2. It's a 10th or 2 down potentially on where he would like to see his time, but he just tucked away from the slipstream of his teammate, fires himself over the first curve. That's a lot like Axelsen's actually final couple of corners.
That looks quick.
That looks
quick to me.
He's coming back over though, so I think he's actually more setting up the next lap than he is abusing this lap. And I'm right actually, because it's an 18.1 in the third sector, 10th or 2 down. And you can tell as soon as he moved over, using more track basically across the start-finish line, you can see a driver who's setting up the next lap because he's not satisfied with the lap he's on.
Yeah, you know what though, that was really close. Last lap, a 16.894. So we are talking these drivers are battling for hundredths of a second. This is not a 10th here and there. This is going down the absolute wire, especially between Jack Smith here and Eric Axelsen. Fantastic driving between the two. Yeah, for me, it seems like Eric just seems to have the edge of Jack Smith in Sector 1. And then it's Sector 2 and especially 3, Jack Smith just manages to get, and I don't know whether it's a little bit more momentum or a little bit more commitment towards that chicane and really pushes it on. Meanwhile, I can't believe I'm about to say this, Mick Sutton, who sat P3 at the moment in the standings, has just gone green in Sector 1. So for anyone who doesn't know what that means he has gone faster than his current best time yet again in the session. So fantastic laps that Mick's churning out here.
Yeah, he's a couple of tenths down on Jack Smith, who's about to come across the line and go P1, 116.7. He's clear by a 10th. And that's all pretty much down to the third sector. That's where he got his lap time from. As Mick Sutton comes across the line, he may well close the gap just a touch, but he doesn't actually. I think that third sector ruined him a little bit. No, it's actually the middle sector. I think that didn't really run his way. He was about 4 tenths down over the course of the final 2 sectors. So Mick Sutton, although it's a good sector 1, he'll be hoping to repeat his sector 1 and then clean up 2 and 3 as he goes through. Eric Axelsen quick on sector 2, so Axelsen may well be preparing.
Oh, that was clean.
Yeah, it is clean because he had the car straightened up for the second apex. He gets flat on the power, and Eric Axelsen is about to come across the line. Where's he put him?
Oh.
Still P2. It's an improvement, but only 700ths away from Smith now. So he's half the deficit that was, but not good enough to upset Smith.
You know what? This is the qualifying session we've been waiting to see. This is an absolute fight between 2 drivers that know what is left out there on track, and they both want to hook up that perfect lap. So this is absolutely brilliant to watch. Jack Smith yet again really consistent through that last chicane. Looks very, very good indeed through there. Eric Axelsen, meanwhile, has gone P1. Oh, it's a 16.688 from Jack Smith. Quicker again, and it's all in that last chicane. Just the big style commitment through there. Eric Axelsen was purple in Sector 1 on this lap, but that looks a bit ragged to me in Sector 2. He's going to have to really hook this up and absolutely throw everything he's got at this last chicane if he's got any hope of taking pole. Only 3 minutes left in this session, and I tell you what, this is brilliant, Jack.
Yeah, he's 2/10 down, it looks, on Smith's lap, so as he sends it through the final chicane, he's hoping this is going to be something magical, and Smith has gone quicker again in Sector 1, so Smith is still on a quick lap, but Axelsen comes across the line, and it's not going to be quicker, 4/10 down, but he has another lap or two. Goodbye, Jack Smith. Goodbye, Jack Smith's hope of improving this lap. I suppose the momentum maybe shifts to Axelsen, but again, both drivers quicker in slightly separate parts of the track. And I'm just about to see as Eric Axelsen is about to cross the Sector 1 time. As I mentioned before, he was purple last lap in this sector. Goes through Old Hairpin, keeps it nice and clean, just about running exactly where you'd want it to. And
a bit off.
Yeah, he's a touch off. But when you say a touch off, Dave, it's half a tenth.
Yeah.
Off of Jack Smith's green Sector 1s that he's just posted. So realistically, Axelsen is still within a shout of getting a pole position. He needs to nail the final sector. That's the big difference at the moment between the top two. No one else seems to be improving out there. Paul Laramie's on a green Sector 2, but apart from that, everybody else seems pretty chilled and not really too dramatic. A lot of drivers in the pits. Jack McIntyre has actually spent a lot of time in the pits, and it doesn't look like he's going to out-qualify Mick Sutton. So that could be a big talking point in and of itself. By 0.003 of a second, they're separated at the moment. Axelsen, again, not quicker through Sector 2, but he's going to come across the line, and I think starting up another lap is probably what his ambition is. No, he goes. No. Sorry. It glitched.
You made me double tip there, Jack.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's my screen went pixelated. I almost had a heart attack.
Yeah,
Sutton on green Sector 1.
Yeah, Mick Sutton is absolutely flying here, but it goes back to what I was saying before. Jack Smith and this Eric Axelsen battle. Jack Smith's green, which means it's his all-time best Sector 1, is a 30.43. Eric Axelsen, the best I've seen him do, is a 30.33. So we're talking a whole tenth that Eric has over the top of Jack Smith in Sector 1 alone. So you can see why it looks very much like in qualifying, the difference between Jack Smith and Eric Axelsen's laps are very much tail ends of the track, if you like. Eric's got the advantage at the start. Jack Smith, has got the advantage at the end. So, my question to you, Jack, is really, what is that going to do for the race? If Eric knows he's quick in Sector 1, that's where he needs to really put the push on.
Well, it's going to be interesting in the race, because, as you mentioned, because obviously Sector 3 and Sector 1 are both potential overtaking opportunities.
Yeah.
In Sector 1, you can go into the first corner, or you can go into Old Hairpin. Sector 2, there's not really much going on, so equaling each other out doesn't really matter too much. But then Sector 3 is Simon Thorpe. Gets a little bit too squirrely. He's going to have to move his car nice and quick because that's on the racing line. And as I said, Sector 3, you got into that final chicane, don't you? So it's crucial parts for both drivers, really. Going to be very interesting how it weighs up. This is Brad Smith. He's gone green Sector 1. We're talking about a lot of green times here in the final couple of minutes of this qualifying. Just to give you a rundown, Mick Sutton and Brad Smith, the only two silver drivers in amongst a sea of gold, separated by 3 in front of them and 3 behind them as Simon Reed finishes off qualifying. So does Jack Mack and Jack Smith. Smith is actually in the pit lane anyway, so he wasn't going to be trying to improve his times after he ruined his tyres by spinning. But we're going to have a look at Brad Smith, who has gone green Sector 1, green Sector 2. He's not moving across the track to waste any time because he wants to get on pole position for the silver category. Don't get too excited. It's 4th, but it's still a hell of a job by Brad Smith, and that gives him the impetus going into the first race this evening. Here's Mick Sutton, and it's not going to be an improvement as he comes into the pit. So Mick Sutton happy with that second in terms of class position anyway. Eric Axelsen doesn't look to be a quicker lap time from him at the moment. Kyle Felvis, we're waiting for something just to click with Kyle. We know he's quick in the MX-5, but it just doesn't seem to have happened for him since moving up into the gold category. He's in 7th at the moment, and that's where he will stay as Jack McIntyre throws a little bit too much at it and goes sideways across the track. I think that may well be a invalid lap time.
Yeah, I mean, let's not take it away from spectating Jack Mack here. That still for him is a lap on a 1:17 flat, which is still an exceptionally fast lap time. Like, honestly, as he gets a bit sideways there, coming out the chicane, I'm pretty sure that was a bit of showboat there, if I'm honest there, Jack. Yeah, fantastic effort by all the top three. But Brad Smith, you saw how happy and how much that meant for him just to get that edge over Mick Sutton in quali here.
Yep, so before we chat to our pole position man and obviously speculate about the rest of the evening's action, we're going to have a quick look at our sponsors.
At Smart5, we do things differently. It starts with our 100% buyback guarantee. When you buy Smart5 token on the Smart Portal and hold it for a year or more, we'll buy back your token at the price you paid for any reason under the sun. You can borrow cash with our collateralized crypto loans or earn up to 13% interest on your holdings. SmartFi unleashes the true potential of cryptocurrencies, and there are so many reasons now more than ever to get involved. Join us today at smartfi.com. Grow your wealth and secure your future with simple, smart, and safe finance.
And that's the end of qualifying, and I'm already losing my voice. It was that exciting. Can't wait for race 1 and 2. But Dave, I believe you can have a chat to one of the drivers that made it so exciting.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a case of deja vu, very much so. I think, Jack, it's fair to say, Jack Smith yet again putting it on pole, but the bit that wasn't the same is the times have got even faster still than previous week. What a fantastic lap that was, and I know fine well anything sub 16.7 is an absolute alien lap. So very, very well done. I take it that lap was just one of them where don't look at the delta and just go for it.
Well, actually, I was looking at the whole lap, trying to just keep it within like a tenth around the whole lap, and then because I knew I messed up on the final corner, so if I just kept it within a tenth towards the end of that lap, then I knew I'd be beating it. But yeah, a 16.6 is is unheard of. Eric really had me sweating in that last practice session before quali.
Yeah, I mean, talking about times when to put it in, I believe going into that practice, it was literally 2 or 3 laps before qualifying, and he went in and done a 16.7 flat, which is outrageously fast. How much did that actually play a part in them early stages in qualifying, regarding like that mental game? Were you thinking, is Eric holding anything back here, or is this a case of, I've just got to go out there and do what I can do, and we'll deal with it?
Yeah, well, I knew Eric would be quick because over the weeks last week we've been practicing. He put in a time that was 0.004 off of mine, so I knew it'd be quite close going into qualifying. So, but yeah, to see him do a 7 flat like that was it did mess with me a little bit, but also pushed me on a bit more. So here we are with a 16.6. So yeah, I'm really chuffed. So yeah, let's just see if we can continue this trend in the race.
Yeah, well, sometimes all it takes for a driver is just to give them a slight prod, a bit of pressure, and they retaliate and show what they really do have. A fantastic lap there, Jack. Well done for putting it P1 on the grid, and hopefully we'll be talking to you after race 1.
Cheers, guys.
And that was Jack Smith having a chat to our commentator Dave Marshall, of course, and what a lovely view we have of Donington Park here. It's pretty much full grid here, Dave, as well, that we're hoping for sign-ups and everything like that. And to be honest, a cracking group of drivers as well, isn't it? Full silvers, very competitive. All golds, very competitive with one another. And if anything's to go by from the last Donington, if we didn't have those technical issues, it was a very exciting evening.
Yeah, it was. It was a real shame. Unfortunately, technicalities do happen, as they do in real life. Unfortunately, timing issues do happen in real life as well. So, yeah, it was very unfortunate, but as you say, a real nice split of drivers. We've got a real high class of drivers there in gold class. Obviously, the likes of Cal Felvis and Nicky Taylor, new to gold class this season, have moved up from the academy and really shown themselves. Simon Reed, obviously, doing the same. And you've got the likes of Brad Smith, Mick Sutton, really starting to knock on that door now, have shown the potential they have. So this is going to be really good. But the likes of Nicky Taylor and Kyle Felvis, sometimes we've seen, it's fair to say, not the outright pace, but their racecraft and the way they can get through in traffic really does highlight why they are in gold class. So this is going to be a very exciting race, and the one I need to watch here is Eric Axelsen. Will we see the aggression that sometimes I feel he needs that little bit more to really show what he's got in this race? Otherwise, the likes of McIntyre, they're in P3, will pounce.
Yeah, well, we've only got 5 seconds to find out because the red lights are coming on, the engine notes are rising, and you know what that means? We're racing here in the AGON by AOC Mazda MX-5 Championship. The timing wasn't quite right with my words there, but still, we are racing, and it looks like a good start by Jack Smith, but Eric Axelsen actually has a flyer going into T1. Smith actually didn't get a good start at all. Axelsen pips him over the line into T1. McIntyre still in third. Smith and Sutton looks like they're going to be going side by side down the crater curves. Actually, no, but there's a little bit of argy-bargy in the background as Jones, Laramie, and Press and Thorpe all come together. They're going side by side, half of them off the track as Thorpe just bumps into Jones there. By the looks of it, they slot themselves down into Old Hairpin. This is Mick Sutton being overtaken by Simon Reed and fending off the likes of Carl Felvis, who, as we mentioned, hasn't really had the MX-5 click under him this season. There's a spin in the background by Paul Laramie. Kenny Press goes through and Simon Thorpe also loses a place. But the big headline of the start of this race is the fact that Eric Axelsen has taken the lead from Jack Smith.
Yeah, I tell you what a start of a race that was. Eric Axelsen just must have got the bite point there almost bang on. And to be fair, Jack Smith has said the previous 2 weeks he just struggles getting them launches. He's struggling either with the bite point or just getting that absolutely perfect launch. Nicky Taylor here really closing in on the back of Kyle Felvis, who was in turn putting pressure on the back of Mick Sutton. Felvis, I did see, giving a bit of the flashing lights, and there's Mick Sutton. That's a disaster. Kyle Felvis in the wall. Mick Sutton has recovered and after a spin, but I'm going to imagine that Felvis is luckily managing to get into the pits, fix that damage, and get back out. But I tell you what, the luck, unfortunately, just doesn't continue with Felvis there. Wrong place, wrong time. Nothing he could do about it. But let's look at the positive. Felvis will be going back into the pits, getting that car fixed up, get back out there, and we will potentially see Felvis at the front row of this full reverse grid next race out. So let's find out. Very unfortunate, huge incident there. In fact, a safety car is being brought out. So Axelsen lost his advantage that he had going across the line. There wasn't that big of a gap, but lost any sort of advantage. Smith's now right at the back of it. McIntyre and Brad Smith holding his own up there in silver class ahead of Simon Reed.
Yeah, and actually Carl Felvis has managed to get out back on circuit. He'll be the one chasing the pack now, so it's gutting for Carl. Obviously, he's now about 6 or 7 places down from where he was, but at least he's still on the lead lap. You've got to take positives where you can. This safety car won't stay out for very long here. Obviously, safety car is sim racing.
You know what, though? I'm sorry to cut you off, Jack. Rich Hayden is pulling out the pits. Therefore, this is a physical safety car, and that means it's going to be a guaranteed at least one more lap. So, if that lead car, Eric Axelsen, is keeping it as slow as what he is, I could be wrong in saying this. I think that Felvis will have just enough time to get round and be on the back of these drivers for the start of the next run. So, a Felvis, if I'm honest, I reckon has been very lucky here, but that was a very big crash indeed.
Yeah, well, to be honest, you can probably just see him in the background. There he is, just going round.
That was Nathan Blank there, pulling the pit, going for a very quick recovery here. So, what's gone on there? Has he had a drive-through? Has Nathan Blank had a drive-through there, and he's managed to serve it under safety car? What a cheeky move that's been.
I mean, you'll know better than me. Is that potentially a jump start? Drivers aren't sure where to let him blend back in. You'd think that he'd have to go to the back, potentially. It's a bit of a difficult one, that, isn't it? Because obviously our live steward is Rich, and he's driving the safety car, so he's not entirely trying to play that one. But you can see drivers are actually sort of forcing him out of the way. This could be a little bit messy. The last thing we need is a crash under safety car, as John Jones is sort of just said, I suppose, giving up the position back. He clearly doesn't think that Nathan should be allowed to just go through the pits and then come back out and take his original position, because there we go, he's already trying to go past again. This one could be a bit messy. I'm imagining Rich will probably be back.
So what I would say in this scenario, Jack, is this unfortunately for me is a bit of a time when, you know, John Jones needs to go, right, you know what, he wants to go back through. But what I'll do is I'll let him go through and sort out judicials after the race, put a protest in if I don't think he's in the right place. Otherwise, it can end up really nasty out there on track. Looks to me like Nathan has settled in behind John Jones now. The safety car's gone. Eric Axelson is sort of holding pace. Still there, he's gone. I just saw the nose pick up just before the chicane. He's going to have good drive. Jack Smith looks to me like he's judged it pretty well there. Sort of gone with him. And Nathan Blank with a huge spin in the background. So after all that anyway, Nathan Blank has a spin. I believe that was Mick Sutton again, getting very, very loose coming out of the chicane. So Mick Sutton's lost a few places. And unfortunately, Brad Smith, this is probably a case of just them cold tyres, has really played a big part here in the restart of this race.
Yeah, it's hard, that final chicane, even when you're on red hot tyres. We've seen a couple of drivers spinning through there in qualifying. When you add the cold tyre dynamic and everybody trying to get an advantage on the other drivers around them, sometimes you can push it too quick. But here comes Jack Smith and Jack Mack attacking Eric Axelson. I think Smith may well have an opportunity to go to the inside, and in fact he has. He slips his way into the P1 position, but Jack Mack gets a better run than both of them. They're going to go 3 wide potentially as they go through Coppice. No, Jack Mack just blends in behind, tries to take advantage of the inside line on Axelson, who holds him around the outside. I've tried to do that. I've ended up in the kitty litter twice in one race, but it looks like he's managed to hold it, so fair play to him. Smith's still in the driving seat, I'd say, in terms of keeping that P1. McIntyre wondering how on earth this one's going to finish, probably hoping it's going to be in a crash. Yep, and it may well be as there's a little touch into the final chicane. McIntyre tries to get the run, but actually it's Nicky Taylor going through. Nicky Taylor getting that advantage, and here comes Simon Reed. And everybody else, the seas are parted, and it looks of it, everybody else is trying to pile their way through.
My word, how things can turn. Jack Matt looking like he was in the power play there in P3, trying to take advantage, and there's a clip between, I believe that was Brad Smith and Eric Axelson there, so a little collision there. Let's keep this clean, boys. It's getting a little bit close, this, for my liking, and I tell you what, I'm on the edge of my seat here. This is so close and on the verge of going catastrophically wrong here.
McIntyre and Axelson are reigniting that battle, but this time it's not for P2. It's all the way down for just about closing into the top 5. You wouldn't believe it that Nicky Taylor, Simon Reed and Brad Smith would be fighting for P2 after the start before the safety car, but that's what we've ended up with. Jack Smith managed to, I suppose, get that pole position back. I was trying to think of a clever way of saying it, but I failed, unfortunately. But he's in the driving seat, put it that way. He's in first position. But Kenny Press and Paul Laramie going side by side through Coppice as well. A little bit of snap of oversteer there by Paul Laramie means he's just about lost out on that position. But here comes Axelson looking up the inside again of Jack McIntyre, just blending in behind them. Now, Dave. Oh, and that's a huge hit of the curbs, actually, isn't it? Axelson's ruined his run completely. You know, it doesn't matter now what his plan may well be in this upcoming lap. But what I would probably imagine is we're going to see a bit of a train as Kenny Press spins around out the final chicane. I would say Axelson, by the looks of how his driving style and racing style has been over the past couple of weeks, he's going to probably blend behind McIntyre and let him do the dirty work and mop up those extra couple of places.
Yeah, I think you're right. Simon Reed couldn't really be much closer to the back of Nicky Taylor there. Incredibly close. And I imagine Nicky Taylor's dad's probably watching this going, Simon, please just go with him. This is too close to take. Because look at how close it is to the back of Nicky Taylor. He's going to try and set it around the outside, up the inside in this corner. Will Nicky see it early enough? Actually, I was quite surprised that Simon Reed very early to back out of that move. Nicky Taylor running a little bit wide on the exit there, but that'll have actually cost him time, not gained it. It just helped with control, and that would believe with John Jones. Oh, what a shame. Unfortunately, spinning there off the back from actually a great position there. Second in silver class, I believe that was. And actually, I think you remember saying earlier on, it's actually his birthday today, so a huge happy birthday to John Jones. Sorry to bring it up at a time that isn't better, really, but John Jones there going from P2 and dropping back. But Sean, he's actually got some real good pace in this car here tonight.
Yeah, probably not a very happy birthday for him so far in this evening anyway. He'll probably be hoping that he had a party instead. But Brad Smith looks to be getting overtaken by Jack Mack. Now, you would look at the timing screen and think, well, that's not that. You know, you wouldn't expect Brad Smith to be putting up much of a fight here. He's the lone silver driver in a sea of golds, and very quick golds that is as well. But by the looks of it, he's not read the script. He's not read the timing tower, and he seems to be racing these champions. in various championships that we've run here, just as hard as he would anybody else, as McIntyre clearly is pushing to try and gain that advantage, because he almost threw it off on the outside of Old Hall there. Axelsen, again, not followed McIntyre through and not lunging up the inside of Smith either. He knows that Smith has got quite a bit of pace, but I wouldn't say anywhere near the pace that Axelsen has. We've seen him putting in some stellar lap times in qualifying and practice, but in the race, he just seems to get held up a bit too much.
Yeah, and you know what? This comes a little bit down to race strategy. Remember, all that the driver has to do when it comes to the reverse grid is be on position in the grid. So by that, I mean Brad Smith at the moment is P5, first in silver class. If you have a look where Mick Sutton is, he's down in 8th place behind Kyle Felvers. So you can see Kyle Felvers there, the purple card just come through shot. That to me would say Brad Smith can quite happily drop behind Axelsen, stay with them, carry driving forward, but in the reverse grid race means he actually gets an extra position forward in the reverse grid over Mick Sutton. So for me, in this position, Brad Smith should drop behind, let Axelsen go forward, try and follow him through, and actually it'll help Brad Smith for the reverse grid race.
Well, I think he's been listening. I think he's
just
watching the live stream.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what he ended up doing, isn't it? As they're going down Crane curves. It wasn't really as much as Brad Smith fought McIntyre for him to do the same move. He didn't really seem to bother with Axelsen. So, yeah, clearly understood what he needs to do. Carl Felvers, by the way, managed to get himself up to P7 overall after obviously coming off and pretty much being one of the causes of the safety car originally. Unfortunately, he is last in terms of the gold categorisation, but still a good showing by Kyle that hopefully he'll push forward, and obviously he'll be one of the front runners in the reverse grid race. You never know, he might catch up to this little train, and I imagine he will, because there is quite a bit of traffic ahead of him, and they might start falling over each other, and there's 8.5 minutes to go, so you never know.
What I would say is 8 minutes left of this race. From what I can see, McIntyre and Eric are both starting to gain onto the back of Simon Reed. That gap's come down a little bit. Eric Axelsen previous lap is 17.1, McIntyre 17.4, and Simon Reed, on an 18.1. So there's quite a big gap there between the likes of Eric and Jack, closing onto the back of Simon Reed. So I won't say it's too many laps. I don't think Simon Reed's going to put up too much of a fight. He'll obviously want to keep his position, but he also won't want to ruin his chances of bringing home some decent points and running this high up. The bit I would worry about is if them drivers get through and start knocking on the door of Nicky Taylor, because I tell you what, Nicky Taylor is a racer absolutely through to his core. If you cut him in half, he is a racer. And if someone gets up behind him, he will put every wall up possible to try and stop a driver getting through. So this is far from done yet. 7 minutes left of this race, and I think we're going to see an absolute battle before the line. Jack Smith, though, what a race he's had. 2.5 seconds out in front at the moment, and needless to say, for me, looking like the strong favourite to go ahead and win this race.
Yep, and it probably looks like Jack McIntyre is a strong favourite to be the first to get past Simon Reed, because he's going to try it around the outside of T1. Brave move and fairly easy defended, I'd say. Simon Reed is doing exactly that. He hasn't forced him off well, I was expecting him to be forced off a little bit more there, Jack Mac, but actually he's been sort of given quite a bit of respect there by Simon Reed, and that's allowed him to potentially overtake him going down Craner curves. As they go into old hairpin.
Oh,
no! Simon Reed comes across Axelsen's nose, who just about managed to keep it on the straight and narrow, and he's only lost out one position to Brad Smith, but Simon Reed, you would have thought, Dave, that he would have seen Axelsen there.
That unfortunately, the way that happened there, I think was a complete, genuine mistake. You're a high-pressure scenario around the outside of a driver through Carrera curves, and he's just gone there and completely misjudged it and moved left on a driver that he probably didn't think was going to be that close. I think that's a genuine mistake, and it's awful to see. And Simon Reed wouldn't have meant that. I know Simon fair well, and he wouldn't have meant for a move to come off like that whatsoever. So, unfortunately, yet again, Eric Axelsen just getting beat up here. But what I am going to say is, if he can turn this round and put a good race 2 in the books here, Eric Axelsen's got a brilliant chance of cutting through this pack and have a brilliant race 2 finish.
Carl Felvers has been promoted 1 position because Simon Reed has now dropped back to 8th place, as I mentioned. So Carl is now up at least 1 in terms of the gold categories, which is not a bad accomplishment, considering obviously he was span off. It's hard to say he was span off, but he was involved in an incident that he had no intention of being involved in, doesn't it? It wasn't his fault at all. But yeah, fair play to him for being up to 6th place. Brad Smith is, again, fair play to him for sticking it off in 4th place. Axelson obviously has fallen behind him now, so there'll be that battle to reignite as Nathan Blank and Simon Reed start this little tussle, shall we say. And what we've seen from Simon Reed so far is that we've probably got a little bit more pace than Nathan Blank. But you never know. Nathan's a gutsy racer. And by the looks of it, he's going to try and get it up the inside of the left and into the right. It's not going to be happening through McLean's.
He's going to have a run here, though.
Yeah, I was going to say. Getting a late apex, straighten the car up. He's looking up the inside of Coppice. It's a brave move from that far back, and he hasn't managed to pull it off. And you can see there the windshield means he's probably been in a little bit of damage, Nathan Blank. We already know he's served a drive-through penalty. But he looks like he's got a fairly decent waft at the backside here of Simon Reed. He's going to try and dive him into the chicane and doesn't, pulls out of it last second, which is probably sensible.
Yeah, so we did quite a lot of work in the academy and around this track as well. And I remember saying a lot of the times, if you're side by side by a driver going towards that chicane, you want to make sure you've got a driver that definitely commits to pulling out of it. Otherwise, 2x2 through that chicane does not work, Jack, whatsoever, as I'm pretty sure you've got real-world experience of doing.
Oh, yes. No, I haven't done it myself because I always thought it was a little bit scary, but I've seen plenty of people try it, thinking they know better than me, and failing in failing in their attempts. So, Mick Sutton on Carl Felvis goes past Kyle. That must have been a really poor run out of Old Hairpin for Carl, because it didn't look like the gap was that close, to be honest, but it looks like Mick Sutton has taken advantage. And although this isn't a battle for position in terms of the silver gold categorizations, obviously, it does mean that Mick Sutton is one step closer potentially catching Brad Smith. Unfortunately, with 3.5 minutes to go, Brad Smith is a long way up the road from Mick Sutton, so really this little battle doesn't really mean much apart from potential personal pride between the two drivers, which I suppose means an awful lot, Dave, doesn't it? Because drivers are very egotistical.
Yeah, and you know what? I could be wrong and say this, but Kyle Felvis, to me, if he goes for a move here, it would completely contradict what I'm about to say. I think he let Mick Sutton there through for grid position. Sure enough, there he didn't go for the move. He was waving behind Mick Sutton as if to say, "Go." So I actually think Kyle Felvis is playing the game a bit here. He's gone, right, I'm ahead of Simon Reed, but I don't need to be any further up, so I'm going to get this. So I've got grid position for reverse grid. Fair play, Kyle. Using your head.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a very, very curious theory, but you may absolutely be right, because obviously that'll mean that himself and Simon Reed will be the highest placed gold drivers, and the likes of Smith, Taylor, McIntyre, Axelson will have to come through, and we know they are pretty good at getting through. They will get there eventually, but you never know. Reverse grid's a lot to be thought about as as Sutton and Felvis both get a little bit loose on the exit of that corner. And as you mentioned, I don't get the impression that Felvis really wants to put the move on Sutton, but Sutton doesn't seem to be giving any choice in the option because he's just getting a little bit loose on the exit of a few of these corners. And again, Felvis going for that racing line, not showing the inside, pretty clear in his intention that he's not going to be pushing too hard. It may well be a smart move this by Kyle, and as I mentioned before, he's showing his intention very early. He's getting out of the way immediately as McIntyre on Taylor is all of a sudden kicking off. In the last 1 minute and 40 seconds, McIntyre looks to be almost alongside him and into second place. In fact, he is alongside him, and he is arguably in second place at the moment. But as they go down into Old Hairpin, Nicky Taylor unusually has no response apart from the fact he has given a response on the exit of Old Hairpin. And this is the Nicky Taylor we know and love. If anything, he's just getting smarter. He read the situation, he read the overspeed, and this is why he's been given another chance to have a go at McIntyre. He doesn't get it though, as Jack Mac's experience fleshes itself out there and flexes his muscles and keeps hold of that second place.
Yeah, but that was very, very nearly working there, wasn't it? The good switcheroo, but actually I think it was switcheroo coming up the hill. He got me there. I would have thought he was going to go outside and then to inside, but he actually went outside, inside, outside, and then to inside. And here we go, Nicky Taylor on the brakes up the inside of the chicane. And I tell you what, McIntyre's got a brilliant drive on the exit. This is going to go down towards turn one. And I tell you what, look who's in the background. Brad Smith and Eric Axelson. Not that far off the back here. Both laps, look, 2 seconds slower than the drivers that are trying to follow. McIntyre's going to brave it around the outside. Nicky Taylor will see that. It's going to be down through the cranes, side by side yet again, but Nicky Taylor will have the inside line going towards the old hairpin this time. If he's going to be brave enough, he might have to tuck in here, and then will he do a little jink? He is, look at this! His little jink up the inside of the old hairpin. I tell you what racing this is from both of these boys. Brilliant race and respect, and no contact as of yet.
I was going to say, I think Nicky Taylor was down the pub the session you said that don't go up the inside of someone at the chicane, Dave, because he wasn't having any of it, was he? Straight up the inside of this Nicky Taylor we know and love. And I think Jack McIntyre is enjoying it as well. He just hopes that it doesn't end early. Going through Coppice, he's going around the outside as McIntyre. He's going to hold it onto the circuit. He just about does. Nicky Taylor actually doesn't get a better run than McIntyre. That was absolutely nailed by McIntyre here, but comes Brad Smith.
That is prime time experience there. Jack Mack knew Nicky Taylor was up his side, and actually Jack Smith has come across the line for the victory. That was the final lap, but here we are. Nicky Taylor, it looks like it's going to have to be a P3 for him, incredibly close to the back of Jack McIntyre there. Brad Smith holds off Eric Axelson for P5, and Mick Sutton, like we suspected, Kyle Velvers settling in just behind him with Mick Sutton there in P6 and Simon Reed home in 8th.
Well, at least we've got our highlights clip, haven't we? The last 2 minutes, the last lap, shall we say, or lap and a half, by McIntyre and Taylor. Fair play to both of them, and I can't wait for you to have a chat to them later on, Dave. Just waiting for everybody else to come across the line. Nathan Blank and John Jones are the last couple of drivers that we have to wait for. Here comes John Jones on his birthday, unfortunately being the last place driver on the circuit. Very unfortunate from him. But without further ado, I believe actually I have got some further ado to be doing. There is an advert coming up, and then we'll have a chat to our podium sitters. And we're back after an epic finale to an epic race, and to dissect it all with some of the protagonists is Dave Marshall.
Yeah, so first of all, we'll go straight to our P1 driver in silver class, Brad Smith. What an important qualifying session that was, just putting it ahead of Mick Sutton there. We saw you go across the line, obviously very, very happy indeed. But I tell you what a race that was, and must be delighted to come home with a P1 in class.
Yeah, absolutely ecstatic with both, so let's hope for the second race we can push on and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've actually really found a bit of a stride in this car at the moment. I don't want to curse you here, but it seems like you found a bit of balance and a bit of sort of racecraft in this car, that you just seem to be on a bit of a good wave with it. Yeah,
I think because I've done half the academy in this car as well, so that's definitely helping. But obviously, I didn't do this track, but obviously in a future tracks I'll have done them, so hopefully I can pull some out of the bag there as well.
Well, fantastic racing there, Brad. Very smart as well, with a few strategies that I saw maybe you're trying to play as well there. So very, very good racing, Brad, and we'll see what you can do in race 2 here on the reverse.
Lovely, cheers.
We'll go to our P3 driver, only just minding gold class. Nicky Taylor throwing absolutely everything you could at it, but just wasn't quite enough to hold on to that space there from McIntyre in the final few stages.
Oh, I could see him getting quicker and quicker, closer and closer in the mirrors during the race. So I was literally just like, I'll try and hold on to this, and if he gets past, which he inevitably did, just try and send it every corner, which I did, and then just, I think, got a bit too greedy into the left-hander before going up the hill, and yeah, just got the run on me, and then I had to try and worry about Brad and Eric getting the run. But yeah, good race considering I'm not the quickest one in these.
Well, I tell you what, I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do here in race 2 with that spirit. Fair play, Nicky.
Oh, cheers.
I'll move forward on our P2 driver. Jack Mack is, I think as Jason Plato would say, he's a fighter, isn't he? He's a fighter.
Yeah, that was a good race. That was hard earned. I think I made it tricky for myself. I just missed out on a few defences that I really needed to do, like up the inside on the second to last lap and that chicane, and it was a really good race. Loads of respect for Nicky. There was loads of room, and every time we were side by side. So yeah, that was brilliant.
I mean, it is exactly what you come racing for, isn't it? That sort of respectful racing side by side, but them hard battles just give you a smile.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's always better to win, but I think after the restart there was a bit of an incident, and I got caught out and ended up on the gravel. So as soon as that happened, the wind was gone. Jack was just off into the distance, so it was a P2 fight from then on. So yeah, hopefully we'll try and go one better in the reverse grid.
Well, let's see how you get on, and we'll go straight to our P1 driver, Jack Smith. Another great result, almost a deja vu of last week, but it was nowhere near as easy with what looked to be a bit of a disastrous start for yourself.
Yeah, no, I still can't get the hang of it in this car. It's just that was the worst one yet, to be fair. So yeah, bit rusty on the starts, but yeah, managed to get past Eric. I think it may have touched the grass and like clipped me on the rear or something. I'm not really sure what happened after the safety car restart, but yeah, that sort of just let me go down the road at that point, so it was just a case of keeping it on the track at the end.
Yeah, and I take it yet again exactly the same sort of thing as last week. Sit back, let a few things develop, and just try and pick them off when the sort of the gap is there. Yeah,
no, exactly. Just one by one, take them one at a time, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Try and avoid any incidents.
Well, needless to say, we're definitely looking forward to it in the comms box, and you put on a very, very good show there in race 1. So let's see more of the same in race 2, Jack. Good luck.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
There we go, Jack. I mean, for me, I tell you what, there was some seriously good driving there, and the battle between Nicky and McIntyre at the end of that race was absolutely fantastic to watch.
It absolutely was, yeah, and as I mentioned in the build-up after we came back from the advert, it was an epic finale to an epic race, and very much hoping it continues. We've only got, well, we've got less than a minute. You timed those interviews very well, Dave, actually, in the end. Less than a minute before we get going. On pole position, Kenny Press. Now, we saw in the TCT car on a Thursday night how well Kenny Press did from its front row. I can't remember if it was first or second, but still very, very impressive, actually. It's put him right in with a chance at the silver category championship in that car. But let's see if we can do that obviously here today. John Jones, he'll be hoping for a birthday treat and leading potentially the first lap. I think he's probably not too silly to think that maybe he won't get the overall lead at the end of the race, but you never know. And then obviously got Simon Reed and Carl Felvers 6th and 7th as well. Looking forward to seeing how they push through the field and see if they can hold off the others attacking behind them. But as the lights come on, the engine notes are rising, and for the second and final time here tonight in the AGON by AOC MX-5 Championship, we are racing. Axelson gets a good start at the rear end of the field, and I think Kenny Press has also got a half-decent one, with John Jones trying to push around the outside of Nathan Blank, who looks to be forcing his way up the inside. It's going to be contact. That was a bit inevitable in the way that John Jones came across the front nose of Nathan Blank, and there's drivers off in the background as well. The front three are pretty much as they are, with Paul Laramie in 4th, Simon Reed in 5th. Axelson's gone past Felvis already. McIntyre and Sutton. McIntyre falling behind Jack Smith at the rear end of the field as well. But as we focus forwards towards Old Hairpin, John Jones is still ahead of, just got ahead of Nathan Blank around the outside of Old Hairpin. So fair play. That was an absolutely ballsy move. And it came up trumps as well as Paul Laramie, Simon Reed, and there's contact in the background. Mick Sutton, Simon Thorpe, and Jack Smith gets away with it somehow. But Simon Thorpe is the driver of the Smart Pie car that's off the circuit.
That's Carl Felvis.
I believe Carl Felvis has had his day go from bad to pretty much worse in this second race. Donington it's a voodoo track for him. He needs to get gone and go towards Vallelunga and Brands Hatch and the likes. Let's hope he can improve his championship as Smith gets past Brad Smith. Nicky Taylor up ahead of Eric Axelson as well. That's big news. Nicky Taylor and Eric Axelson, obviously two gold drivers to be looking out for as they try and chase down Simon Reed, who's fighting with Paul Laramie into the final chicane. Nicky Taylor doing his everything he can to try and get past everybody by the first lap. Axelson, as ever, is just letting him do it and following him through.
You know what? That description there was about as good as you're going to give. Nicky Taylor trying to overtake everyone at the end of lap 1 is exactly what he'll do.
Axelson's gotten past 3 on one corner. Sorry, Dave, but Axelson was at the inside of Taylor and he took advantage of Laramie and Reed coming together. So he's flown through.
Yeah, that, to be fair, Axelson's star and the way he got through the initial pat was fantastic, but to me, just left a little bit too much room on the opener lap going through the old hairpin. That then meant Simon Reed got the run, and I noticed going up the hill, Axelson got absolutely swallowed by about 3 cars, meant he couldn't progress up the grid, and that's what allowed Nicky Taylor to climb back onto the back of him. Meanwhile, here we go yet again, Nicky Taylor and Jack Mack. I mean, what's going to happen here is anyone's guess, but I can tell you one thing, Nicky Taylor is not backing out the brakes going in this chicane.
No, he isn't. As they go 3 wide, Taylor is going to try around the outside. It'd be very ambitious. Some say it'd be very stupid, but it's no longer 3 wide because Simon Reed gets binned into the outside and comes across the circuit and makes contact with Brad Smith, which is absolutely heartbreaking for Brad Smith as well, to be fair. As Nathan Blank, John Jones, they're still going at it. We're a good 2 or 3 laps in. Eric Axelson is probably the favourite to try and take advantage of this one and get through really rather quickly. But still, these guys are having a proper ding-dong, and they're ding-donging each other off the track. Axelson, rather wisely, just coming off the throttle a little bit there, I think, because both drivers are so obsessed with each other. They didn't even realise there was a third driver coming in to have a chat about it all, as they still are fighting down Craig Curves and into Old Hairpin. Axelson doing exactly the right thing. He doesn't know where to put his car because the 2 in front of him seem to be a little bit unpredictable, even though he has the pace on them.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I wouldn't know where to look myself either. Axelson here knows he's got the pace of both drivers in front, but this is where you almost need to take a step back, go, right, I need to get the overrun so I can do a nice, committed, clean overtake. But the problem is, because these drivers are jumping over each other, and oh, there it is, and look at Nicky Taylor! Nicky Taylor, up the inside of all the drivers, has managed to find the gap where Eric Axelson just couldn't, and John Jones here is not giving any room. Jack Mack has found the room up the inside and across the front. John Jones is going to go up the inside, and there's contact between him and McIntyre, and Eric Axelson, yet again, has just struggled to go forward and follow Nicky Taylor. Where the world did he find the space there? Brilliant driving, and yet again, look, John Jones into the side of Axelson. Boys, let's keep this on track here. Let's not argue this as much as we are. John Jones up the inside yet again, just barging him off the way there. For me, very unacceptable driving there in turn 1. Bit too aggressive for me.
Yeah, and considering it's silver against a sea of golds as well, and obviously championship has nothing to come into it. It's unfortunate that because you shouldn't do that to any driver. But the fact that, you know, if you're a silver in amongst a sea of golds, you really should be obviously being a bit more sensible about it. And obviously he's fighting with Nathan Blank. That's all fair game, but to interrupt everybody else's race is a little bit iffy. Sorry, and they're still hitting each other as everybody else goes through. But in all that melee, Axelson has fallen back down to 9th after being the driver who looked to potentially probably be the favourite on to win this race. Kenny Press still leading the way. Really, really good job by him. As Jones and Blank still trying to hit each other out of the way, basically. As Laramie is now defending with all his will into the chicane. I don't think there's room up the inside. There's going to be room for John Jones's car, whether Laramie likes it or not. And as they go through the chicane, there's a little bit of rubbing, but to be fair, not as much contact as I was thinking. Axelson trying to get through, but again, I think he's been swamped by Brad Smith. And there's 2 drivers off in the background there, and one of them is John Jones. That's semi-predictable. And Brad Smith is the other, unfortunately, just getting mixed up in a mess that probably wasn't even his to begin with. Kenny Press has lost the race lead to Nicky Taylor. McIntyre trying to go through on Kenny as well, and reignite a battle for what was 2nd place in race 1 is now 1st place in race 2.
Yeah, I mean, bit of messy racing going on there, but crucially, Eric Axelson has managed to get past it all, and yet again, look at this. Has he judged it right this time? Looks like he's got the run past Nathan Blank, all over the back of Paul Laramie and Kenny Press. Yet again, what a brilliant drive. We saw it in TCT. He's picking his battle, and this to me seems like Kenny Press has really found his stride in knowing which drivers to battle against, because you saw him there, Nicky Taylor, McIntyre and Smith all just got basically let through past Kenny, and he's gone, you know what, I'm going to lose as little time as possible, tuck back in, and crucially look, still nearly 2.5 seconds ahead of 2nd place in silver. Fantastic drive, Kenny Press.
Laramie versus Blank. Obviously, Blank trying to defend into that final corner as Nicky Taylor and Jack McIntyre do restart that battle, and I was very much hoping they would as well, because it was awesome. At the end of race number 1, McIntyre going around the outside, and I think Taylor maybe just came off the throttle a little bit there. He didn't force McIntyre off the circuit or even anywhere close to off the circuit, and that's just allowed McIntyre straight around the outside, no messing about, very easily done and dusted. Another interesting party amongst all this is obviously Jack Smith, who's currently in 3rd place. Won race number 1, obviously, was championship leader as well. So very interested to see what he has to say about all this kit and caboodle once he catches up to the back of Nicky Taylor, which he inevitably will, because he's one of the fastest drivers out there. Kenny Press, Mick Sutton, then Eric Axelson. So a few drivers, a few silver drivers in between themselves, these guys, and obviously championship rival Axelson. But I would say Axelson will probably catch up to the likes of Press and Sutton, so he'll be picking up points anyway. But this, I reckon, Dave, as long as Nicky Taylor can hold on to these two, will potentially be a bit of a prayer for Axelson in interrupting their battle.
You know what? Yet again, for me, Nicky Taylor not with the pace in qualifying, and then get into race trim, and you can see Jack Smith, one of the two of the 3 drivers that were the fastest in the session by a mile, and then Nicky Taylor all of a sudden just switches a gear and goes, right, and now you want to battle, boys? Right, I'll show you what I've got. So Nicky Taylor, for me, doing a fantastic job here, showing some absolutely fantastic race, and exactly what you need to do to put a championship together.
Yeah, in fact, there's early calls for Nicky Taylor as driver of the round from Adrian Felvers, but as Dave Kempton has also mentioned in the YouTube chat, there's a long way to go, isn't there? Plenty of driving left to be done, and obviously we don't want Nicky Taylor to have any contact. He's very, very ballsy, is Nicky Taylor, but what last thing we need is a race-ruining incident, and I'm sure that the 3 drivers we're currently looking at on screen have enough racing respect for each other, know exactly what they're up against, and the fact that we'll hopefully hold off on any of that nonsense. But Jack Smith runs wide. Jack Smith runs wide on Coppice, and it's all of a sudden it's a 2-way battle.
Up the inside into the chicane. I spotted that. Sorry, Jack, to cut you off there. I'd spotted out the corner of my eye Nicky Taylor with a definite run on Jack Mark, and I knew fine well he was going to have a look on the brakes. Up the inside. He's got a catchphrase, Jack. I'm saying it. This is my first time as a commentator. He is the fighter of the grid. What an absolute fighter.
Yeah, he is, but he has just let McIntyre back up the inside of him, unfortunately. And I did think when he went all the way to the racing line that it was a bit of a suspect move across, to be honest, because he did leave the door gaping for McIntyre, and he must have known that he was going to go for it. But either way, he's on the inside of Crater Curves as they go towards Old Hairpin. They are side by side. Normally that means the driver on the inside is the victor, but actually Nicky Taylor gets a fantastic run and spatial awareness down to a key on the outside of that runoff area. Nicky Taylor manages to hold on, and he's got himself back into the overall race lead. McIntyre has now got Smith back for company. Smith obviously went off at Coppice and only took him half a lap to catch back up to these two, where they're out there fighting. And as we mentioned, Kenny Press and Mick Sutton earlier on, they have caught each other. Axelson's about to join that battle, but obviously we need to focus on the overall victory potentially here with 9.5 minutes to go. Taylor, McIntyre, Smith, your guess is as good as mine, but take your bets now because it's about to heat up.
Yeah, you know what? I'm watching this going. This battle is kicking off. In fact, it's not about to. It is kicking off. What I would say is Nicky Taylor here, he knows Jack Smith is very, very quick indeed. And if he can play this game well, he can almost back Jack Mack up to, unfortunately, back him into Jack Smith, get them two to start battling and possibly give himself a little bit of that breathing room. So this, for me, is all coming down to racecraft and racing respect here. This is some fantastic battling that we're seeing. Eric Axelson, very, very nice to see, if I'm honest. What a disastrous race he's had. Up into P4, fantastic recovery by himself. And I tell you what, the way things are going at the moment, if these drivers battle this hard for another 8 minutes, Axelson, you never know, might get another shot at this.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't doubt it if they do keep fighting these three as hard as they are, because Although Axelson had to overtook not only Press but Mick Sutton as well, it was still a quicker lap time than all three of these drivers on the front of the field. And as you can see, McIntyre throwing the pace around the outside. He's become a little bit known for that around Donington here these past couple of weeks, and he's doing exactly the same here. Nicky Taylor looks like he's just going to still stick his nose up the inside. McIntyre trying to scare him out of it. Nicky Taylor's not here to be scared. He's here to take race victories. He's here to take dubs. And dubs is exactly what he's looking at. He's staring down the battle of a fantastic race victory. But he's moving across slightly on McIntyre. McIntyre keeping his nose in. That's brave decision-making by both of these drivers. There was a little bit of finding out room, shall we say, as there is still contact through the first corner. That's nudged Taylor out the way. McIntyre needed to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more elbows out if he was ever going to fend off the attacks of Nicky Taylor. But of course, Smith has now gone ahead of Taylor, and now we're starting to see a championship battle. This isn't a battle for race victory anymore. This is a battle for championship victory as well. This could heat up, and Taylor's here for the taking.
So you know what needs to happen here? Nicky Taylor needs to go right. Them two are battling. Let them battle. Don't force Jack Smith too hard. Otherwise, Jack Smith will
have you met Nicky Taylor? He's going for it already.
I was going to say, Nicky Taylor needs to let Jack Smith go. Otherwise, Jack Smith will go right. I need to start defending the place. As soon as he does that, watch Jack Max start to pull away. So Nicky Taylor needs to work with Jack Smith here. Otherwise, McIntyre will have this victory.
2 seconds quicker is Axelson compared to the rest of these three. And as they're about to come across the line again, I think that, if anything, will be the same story. As I think Nicky Taylor ruined his run out of the final chicane, though. So Nicky pushing a little bit too hard. I think he blindsided himself, pushing up a little bit too close to Smith. So Smith has been released, and he can now attack McIntyre. Lord knows that in about 2 minutes' time, the gap for the top three, and in my opinion, the top four, is about to close up. I'm calling it now, Dave. By the end of not this lap, but the one after that, this will be a four-way battle.
Yeah, because I would say Jack Smith's in a good position here. He might turn around and go, you know what? This battle might not be worth trying to win and just bring it home in second. But if he's thinking of the championship table, he knows McIntyre has a points gap at the moment. He's already taken points away from him in race one. He's also got the pace here at this track. So, for me, if he's got anywhere to try and battle, he needs to use that pace he's got here at this track now. Don't let McIntyre get away, get that win and get that advantage. He needs to put the pressure on.
Yeah, I think earlier I actually said that Jack Smith had the championship advantage over McIntyre, but I was unfortunately looking at my TCT tab. I wasn't looking at the MX-5. Apologies about that. It is McIntyre on 43 points after that earlier race victory. Jack Smith on 32, and that's pretty impressive because Smith came from about 4th all the way up to 2nd place in just one race. Axelson only 1 point behind Smith, and I'm getting a little bit of deja vu here, Dave. I think it was a similar story to how it played out in race 1 back last week as well. So although we're rerunning things with obviously a lot less technical glitches, which is what we like to see, people are finishing the races on merit, not being kicked back to the pits or anything like that, which is exactly why we reran the session, because everybody needs a fair race, don't they? But it's running a similar story from what I can tell.
Yeah, very much so. So Jack Smith will be very, very pleased indeed to have got the fastest qualifying session and race 1 victory exactly like he did last week. The only difference is I've noticed Eric Axelson's pace during the race has been absolutely exceptional.
Oh, yeah.
So I believe he took race 1 fastest lap, and he's just posted a 16.7 in race 2. That is a ridiculous pace. 1 tyres, fuel on board the car, and he's gone and put a time that would have put him P2 on the grid in qualifying. I mean, what a drive this has been. Fantastic. Well done, Eric.
Yeah, I think we're seeing an aggressive Eric Axelson here, isn't it? And I said there would be a four-way battle, but to be honest, Jack Smith and Jack McIntyre have decided not to fight it out too close yet. There's obviously 4 minutes to go. The gap is sort of semi-close for them. But I think Smith is doing exactly the right thing here, Dave. He's using McIntyre to get away from the other two. He knows they've got pace on Taylor, but what he might not have is the gung-ho attitude of Taylor, and that's the thing they need to lose if they've got any chance of dueling it out in the final 2 corners.
Yeah, exactly that. The question is how aggressive will Jack Smith be if he gets the opportunity to put his nose up the inside? Will he go for it like Nicky Taylor did? We can see Nicky Taylor's maybe 3 to 4 tenths off the pace of these absolute front runners. but you saw when he gets a grasp on something, when he clamps onto it, he doesn't let go, and it's that fight that earns him these P3s, and for me, at the moment, the Driver of the Day award.
Oh, I was going to say...
I'm saying it.
Yeah, so, well, repeat it. Who are you going for? As Nathan Blank goes off around McLean's, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, just unfortunately a little bit too much on the inside there, caught the gravel and quite a big slide. That's killed quite a lot of his speed. Another driver for me that has to be in with a run-in. What a drive by Kenny Press. Fantastic racing out there, driving within himself, and exactly what these reverse grid races are about.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't actually catch what you said the first time around there, Dave. I was typing away, actually talking about Driver of the Day, but on the Discord, I didn't catch what you said.
For me, Nicky Taylor has to have a good positive big tick there. This is exactly the racing that we want to endorse. Hard, fair, non-contact racing. There was a little bit of a squeeze going down towards turn 1 between him and McIntyre. McIntyre returned the favour into turn 1. You know, Rubin is racing. I think, you know, they're probably going, all right, we'll respect each other a little bit more on track than what we just did, but the amount of clean, fair racing that went on before and after that incident, you cannot gripe the fact that that was some of the best racing that was seen in this championship so far.
Yeah, I think it was probably more clean overtakes than we saw in the entirety of the F1 calendar last year. And everybody says that was the best F1 calendar we've ever seen, isn't it? So I think fair play to them. And as you said, only a little bit of rubbing. There's probably only a slight graze on those MX-5s. Having said that, he's got 2 minutes to ruin it for himself, hasn't he? So as Axelson flies down the inside, Axelson clearly got pace on Nicky Taylor, but we know that that doesn't matter when it actually just comes to elbows out racing for Nicky here. We may well see a change for podium positions by the end of this, and the change for driver of the round as well. I have to say, Dave, for me, one of my drivers of the round probably would have to be Axelson. Is up there because I just think though he just needs that little extra aggression, that little extra killer instinct, because he's recovered fantastically and his pace is only paralleled by one driver, and that's the driver you're seeing on your screen now. But he just doesn't have, at the moment, that killer racecraft that we want to see from him. He just needs a little bit of Nicky Taylor's magic. That's what we need. Smith looking up the inside of Jack Smith through the left kink. It's not going to be the inside from McLean's. That's still going to be McIntyre's. But it's Smith and McIntyre. They've started. 1 minute to go. That's going to be pretty much this lap plus one more. This is starting to heat up. They've seen that Taylor and Axelson have also started fighting, so they've got no issues further back from them. This is a fight for race lead and potential championship sway as well. I think McIntyre is still going to be in the championship lead, but Smith could steal some points here.
Oh, it's going to be closed up. That is definitely for sure. Fantastic racing. Look at how close they can get without any form of contact. Let's not curse that though. Look at Eric Axelson in the background. That looks to me like a more determined Eric. That fire that he needed at the start of the race. A bit of sideways, but what will he do? Nicky Taylor will not be an easy driver to get past here. Oh, but he's going to try and round the outside. He hasn't quite got enough momentum there, though, to make that move commit. He is half and half. Nah, I think Nicky Taylor here is definitely going to try a brake move up the inside. Is he? No, he isn't. Eric Axelson, fair play, down through Craner curves, has managed to get ahead of Nicky Taylor. What a drive indeed. Fantastic. Oh, and look up ahead. The lead change has gone from Jack McIntyre to Jack Smith here. Jack Smith must have just had a great run out through the old hairpin. That's the only thing I'm putting down to. Sure enough, look at that. But sorry, for anyone who watching this can't see it, our timing tower is shown sector 1. He's gone purple, so Jack Smith with the fastest first sector out of anyone. Jack Smith breaking late into the last chicane. It's going to be all about the run out of here. And I tell you what, McIntyre threw absolutely everything at it. Sideways out the chicane. But fair play to both drivers. What a drive and what a race that's been.
Podium positions changing as ever as Axelson comes across the line to take third place away from Nicky Taylor, who fought extremely well and extremely fair as well. I thought there was a little bit of contact going through McLaren's that we didn't quite see in the shot. It came up on my timing tower, but they still, both drivers came out of it as clean as a whistle, so lovely to see. Mick Sutton takes home the first place in silver category as well. Well done to him. Nathan Blank ended up in second in silver category after that huge, obviously, altercation for many laps with John Jones earlier on. Brad Smith, probably not really the day that he wanted. He probably would have wanted last week's round to count. He got driver of the day last week. Unfortunately, he's not had it this time. Kenny Press in 8th place. He led the race very well, but unfortunately slipped rather far back, even in the silver category, really. Paul Laramie in 9th, Simon Thorpe in 10th, and John Jones, after some iffy driving, will be in 11th position. Simon Reed, unfortunately, ended up in the pit lane. He came back out by the looks of it and is on the lead lap, so fair play to him, but he's in 12th. Carl Felvis is unfortunately a DNF. So, everybody take a breath, take a minute, and appreciate what you've just seen, because it was absolutely mega from start to finish. That final 10 minutes particularly was awesome, and I believe, Dave, you can break it down with some of the drivers now.
Yeah, we can indeed. So we'll go straight to our P1 finisher in class, Mick Sutton, top of silver. A brilliant recovery there, managing to get your way back up to, as I say, P1 in silver. I mean, you must be fairly happy with that, but maybe not the perfect round for you, with Brad Smith just pipping you in qualifying there.
Yeah, I was not so good in the first race, and to be honest, the second race started a little bit rough there, I have to say.
Yeah.
I got sandwiched going up the hill after the old hairpin in the first or second lap, I can't remember. And it was tough, but after that I sort of just settled down and took my time, and managed to get past Kenny, and then I saw Eric behind me and I thought, well, I'll let Eric pass because he's a gold driver, and messed the old hairpin up, and Kenny went past me again. So anyway, we got it back in the end, and yeah, I'm more than happy with that. More than happy, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the same thing I said to Brad. Both you and Brad just seem to really have clicked a little bit with this MX-5, and especially the Donington round. Just seem to have quite a lot of car control and a lot of flow with the car, which is exactly what's needed.
Yeah, it's that type of car, isn't it? That you've just got to keep the momentum going, and if you lose any momentum anywhere, either too long on the brakes or not enough, or scrub some speed off, your lap's gone. Yeah, it's I'm not too disappointed, I have to say. Thanks.
Well, fantastic round here, Mick, and really look forward to seeing what you can bring next round.
Thank you very much, and well done everybody else.
Spot on. And we'll move forward onto our P3 driver. A rough night for you, Eric. Arguably, probably the pace out there to have a lot better results than you had, but it was just that race start in the second, just couldn't quite manage to make the progress last long enough for the position to be there.
Yeah, small mistakes here and there, a few small incidents, but I know I had the pace. But yeah, it's hard to move through the field.
Yeah, I mean, in qualifying, we saw just before qualifying went live, you put your PB on the board in time practice. It must have been a confidence boost coming in tonight to know that you really had the pace there to do some serious damage, and carry that forward into the next few rounds, knowing that you've really got the grips with this car now, and you can put it at the front of that grid.
Yeah, of course it was. I know, as you said, I had the pace, but Jack Smith was so fast with his 16.6 something.
I mean, the other thing to bring up as well, the committed drive there in race 2, you got barged out the way a few times there, very, very unlucky to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but the drive to pull your way back through the grid and just get Nicky Taylor, I think it was 2 laps before the finish. What a drive that was there in race 2.
Yeah, thanks. After the circumstances, I have to be happy with the P3, and I hope I'm not ending up too far back in the championship.
Well, trust me, you're definitely still in the hunt there, and I guarantee Jack Mack and Jack Smith will be saying the same thing. Well done, Eric, on your podium, and look forward to seeing what you can do next time.
Thank you, Dave.
And move forward on our P2 finisher, Jack Mack. It has been some tough racing tonight, I can tell you that much.
Oh, what a roller coaster! I mean, I'm a little bit gutted. It was my own mistake in the end. I just didn't really commit one way to the inside or to the outside, and suffered as a result. So yeah, that was down to me. But props to Jack for being so quick and having the pace to put me under so much pressure. That was like the toughest 5 quali laps of my life that I tried to do at the end of that race to stay in front. But yeah, you know, I mean, last time round in round 1, it was me who had the last lap. I guess a bit of luck to get around the outside of Kyle, so it was only fitting that this time I lose it around the. Well up the inside, but
I'll
yeah.
be truly honest. We didn't actually see the move that you're talking about. I believe was that maybe up old hairpin, maybe.
No, just the corner after. So I kind of stayed in the middle of the track, and Jack didn't really commit to anything, and as a result, neither did I. And he got up the inside. I tried a bit of a cutback, but just really didn't do it very well at all. So yeah, he was in front from then on. So it was. Yeah.
I've got to quickly touch upon the fighter of the grid, and Nicky Taylor. He may be 3 or 4 tenths off you boys at the front, but I tell you what, he is a stubborn one, isn't he?
He put up a good fight. There was a point in that race where I think it was the first time I got past him going down the back straight, and I had Nicky behind me and then Jack behind him, and I could see Nicky going up the inside, and there was still 10 minutes left, and I was shouting at my monitor going, "Please, Nicky, don't go up the inside, just push me. Let's try and drive away." But yeah, he's a fighter, and fair play. It was all clean and all good fun. So yeah, good meeting.
It's exactly what we like to see, and we're looking forward to seeing more of that action at next round. Well done, Jack, man.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
And Jack Smith, I mean, what a drive it's been. Probably a night of highs and lows for you, especially in that race too. Just not quite managing to cut through the grid. But you must be fair happy to bring home a quali and a double win there. What a night it's been.
Yeah, and the start of race 2, that was a moment. I thought it was over, but and then here we are on the top step. But yeah, I couldn't have told you that. You know, it was sort of like a lottery ticket this weekend, really. So yeah, that last lap battle was something else really from Jack. It was just mental. So yeah, real props to him.
I mean, unfortunately, last week's technicalities meant your points didn't get carried forward. But regarding this week's racing, it definitely wasn't as plain sailing.
Yeah, for sure. Funnily enough, I actually messaged. I was messaging the guy who's sorted out the sponsorship for me this season, and I said to him, "It doesn't matter. I'll go win 2 races next time." So there we are. I mean, I might as well just say that every time now. So yeah.
You know what? That is sometimes exactly the attitude you have. Take it on the shoulder, go right. You know what? That's, you know, it's in the past, it's gone. Let's go ahead, just do it again. I've done it once, I can do it again. So fantastic race tonight, Jack. And also through the votes we've had on YouTube, but also in the commentary team and the director and the streamer, we all think you're deserving of the Driver of the Day award as well. So fantastic driving there tonight. And yeah, we just want to see more of the same.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's going to be tons more bits like this all over the season. So, and yeah, thank you to everyone who voted. So, yeah, cheers, guys.
Well, fantastic. And there we go, Jack. A night racing, fantastic results. And I'm going to say it now, the best sim racing I think I've seen tonight as a double header for as long as I can remember. What a race for 2 races off the bat.
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it? And to be honest, we started to get used to this sort of scenes on VRRC, isn't it? It's something that I've become accustomed to now. It's almost a shock when we get a slightly dull 5 minutes in a race. It's sort of the biggest period where nothing much happens. But it's awesome to see, and we can see what it means as well in terms of the championship standings. Jack McIntyre, the gap has closed just a touch though, only a touch. I'm talking 1 point. And the driver chasing him is no longer Eric Axelsson. It is now Jack Smith. So Smith has launched himself into 2nd place and still, as I said, has closed on Jack McIntyre somehow. Eric Axelsson in 3rd with 42 points. Again, good performance, especially in race number 2, but that killer instinct is really, I'd say, stopping him pushing forward and getting any closer to the top 2. Nicky Taylor, again, fantastic driving from him. He's in 4th. And Kyle Felvis in 5th. And 6th is Simon Reed. Really unlucky night for Kyle and Simon. I think Kyle especially will be glad to finally see the back of Donington Park. although he's got it in the TCT in a couple of weeks' time. Silver Drivers, Brad Smith is leading the way, but only by a point ahead of Mick Sutton, who took home a victory, obviously, today. Both of those drivers are teammates, and I'm sure a very happy team it is. Nathan Blank, not massively behind, but enough behind to probably think he's not really in the championship running at the moment.
But, Jack, I have heard through the grapevine he has some new technology under his belt. So, will we see that the new wheel maybe starting to make an appearance and help Nathan's progress up the field? So that's a little sneak preview of what might be coming for Nathan Blank's way.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed it helps him out, and we see a three-way battle for that silver podium. Paul Laramie as well in fourth, Simon Thorpe in fifth, John Jones unfortunately ended his birthday not in the way that he was hoping for, and Kenny Press, although drove brilliantly in race number 2, is still labouring down in 7th position in the silver category. So that is pretty much all she wrote. We're going to have a quick look going forward, and specifically not that far forward. We're going to bring up that graphic yet again for the... actually, we'll do this one first. We'll do the MX-5 Round 3 at Brands Hatch GP. This is this time next week, essentially, 7:30. You know the score by now. You know when to tune in. You know that you're supposed to be subscribing and everything else. So please, by all means, get involved and put that one in your diary as well for the next round of the MX-5 Cup. On this Thursday coming, we also have the TCT, the Touring Car Trophy. There we go, round 2 at Silverstone International. We spoke about it right at the beginning of the broadcast. We're speaking about it right at the end as well, because we do love a little bit of symmetry here at VRRC, hence the name in a lot of ways. So round 2, Silverstone International in the TCT. Join myself and Andy McEwen in the comments box for that one. 7:30 on Thursday. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Right, last couple of bits, Dave. A couple of other things that VRRC have going on in the background.
Yeah, so as you can see on screen, we've got weekly stages in Dirt Rally that basically every month will change country, and brilliant bit of fun just for you to do in your own time. It's not a strict schedule. As long as you get it done by the monthly time, it's all good. Then Forza Horizon 5, we've got cruise events as well as just free roam with the people in the community, so that's really nice as well. We've got weekly endurance races on ACC, as well as our championships that you can see on AC, as well as fun races on Sundays, and Time Attack as well, that runs also monthly with real cash prizes as well. So if you think this is a bit of you, if you go, you know what, I fancy seeing how fast I'm in compared to some of these lads I'm looking at now, jump in the Time Attack series, get signed up for as little as £3 a month, get in Time Attack and see where you stand, and you could be getting yourself a real cash prize as well. So the more the merrier. Jack, what a night it's been. Rich is in here as well, and I think, Rich, you can agree, what a night that's been, eh?
It's been alright, a little bit better than last week. I don't think I should have any nights off going forward, eh?
Oh, throwing shade. Need to get some sun in here.
No, that was really good. And as you said earlier on, yeah, it's quite rare now that we have a fairly dull race, isn't it? So, really pleased with how that's gone, and let's crack on to the next round.
You're absolutely right. Rich, thank you very much for jumping in. And, Dave, last thoughts on Donington. Quickly, you got 10 seconds.
Very, very rare that we get a double race with that much action. What a race it was, and I'm going to go and watch it back.
Fantastic news. So, if you all enjoyed it, it's been an absolute pleasure being your host this evening. Thank you if you've just watched silently, or even if you've subscribed or commented or given the stream a like. It's all brilliant. We're all very thankful for it all. My name's been Jack Oliphant. I've been alongside Dave Marshall and Tom O'Farrell on the broadcast as well on the cameras. We'll see you on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. for the TCT. Good night.